It really just comes down to the two main things that a contractor needs to be doing in their business. That is calculating their hourly rate and a budget and then keeping it updated. Because if you buy another truck, hire another person, do a new marketing campaign, that changes and you have to keep it updated. And then secondly, probably the biggest sleeper issue, it's tracking the hours on the job. If you continuously estimate a job for 150 hours and then it takes you 200 hours in the field to actually get it done, and then keep on estimating jobs that way, there go your profits. They're gone.
You're listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. I'm your host, Alex from TechnoBlock, and this is another episode of the Hardscape Growth Show. And today, Wes from Synced Up is joining us because he's been touring the country. He's been hosting these different events and conferences and working with thousands of contractors who are using the software. And the same problem keeps coming up. It's the same problem I outlined 30 seconds ago. So, Wes, first, welcome to the show. Second, how do we solve the problem? What's the most straightforward thing we need to do?
Well, the first thing to solve the profitability problem for contractors is to just do the tactical part of it's a math equation. But then it's a mindset and a sales problem, because so often I see contractors, like we can solve the math problem in 10 minutes. It's not hard. Sure, if you've never done overhead recovery and all of that, you may not know the formulas, because that's beside the point. Those formulas are on the internet everywhere. The harder part that is more difficult to solve actually is the mindset problem, because nobody can fix that except for you. You know,
so let's start with the math, because the math will give us the foundation to address the mindset part.
Absolutely.
And if the math is only 10 minutes, well, that leaves us plenty of time for the rest. Okay.
Awesome.
So the math, what is the math that we're talking about?
Well, essentially what I was telling you before we started recording was that the math problem ultimately is calculating all of your overhead expenses and making sure that your labor rate is covering all of those overhead expenses. Because if you're charging $75 an hour, that is not $75 an hour in your pocket. It's not, and you already know that, it's not even $75 an hour minus the 30 or 40 that you're paying your crew. It's often the overhead recovery portion of that hourly rate is even greater or larger than the wage that you're paying the crew member on that hourly rate. So that is the wild card that contractors typically get tripped up on. And usually the way I hear it coming from contractors is, I bought a new truck, or I hired another person, or my insurance went up, or I started a marketing campaign, and I don't know how to translate that into my hourly rate. And that's a pretty simple problem to solve. We can solve that in 5 to 10 minutes with just a little budgeting exercise. And ultimately all it is coming up with, like, what do you pay for your labor, your direct costs, the wages you pay your people? What are you paying for all of your overhead expenses, the things I just rattled off, your trucks, your insurance, your marketing, all of that. Add those two up per hour, per production hour. That's your break even on the hourly rate. Add your desired net profit margin. Bingo, there's your hourly rate.
Okay, so without getting into like the full formula for an hour here, I take everything, and I mean everything, that I spend money on in a year.
Yeah.
And I divide that by the number of billable hours of the year. Billable hours is calculated as a function of how many people can I deploy to a site any given time? How many hours are they deployed per day, per week, per month, per year? The real numbers, not I hope. I hope that it doesn't rain. I hope that the snow doesn't fly early this year. I hope that we have a nice spring. The real thing, and you play it conservative.
Yeah.
When you take all of those expenses divided by those hours, that's at bare minimum. This is the simplest way to recover those expenses. That gives you how much per hour you need to recover.
That's
plus
right.
How much you pay people, plus the profit you want to make, plus taxes. So all those things, when you add them all together, that's what gives you your price. So if it's so straightforward, because it is, why don't we do it?
Well, there's two things. The first one is also a little tactical, and that is everything you just covered and is something that most people listening to this already know and probably have already sat down and done, even if it's in the wintertime or whatever. Yeah,
because it's not the first time that we're talking about this on the show. Exactly. It's probably like the 10th time we're talking about it on the show.
Exactly. So here's the kicker, though. Just because you sat down and did it in January, you're selling jobs now. And since you've last sat down and done your calculations, how many of you have bought another truck? How many of you have deployed another marketing campaign? How many of you have had your insurance go up? How many of you have had anything change in your business's expenses? All of you. So the point is it does take an intentional effort to sit down at your desk and be like, okay, let me review these. And it's something that contractors generally don't love to do. They'd rather be out there doing the work and making beautiful spaces, which is awesome. But the point I want to make is this math, this formulas that you just rattled off, nothing earth shaking, nothing, it's common knowledge. But when it's outdated, it's as good as if you had never done it.
So budget reviews are too infrequent.
Yep.
And probably
you should be looking at this stuff.
Like they're not on a scheduled thing. They're just like, well, I should probably take a look at that. And that's flying by the seat of your pants again.
And I would say the most common story I hear is a contractor that is, yes, calculating their overhead recovery into their hourly rates. And it's been months, usually since the last winter time, that they've ever looked at them. And B, they're still using those rates to sell jobs.
So budget reviews are too infrequent, and therefore numbers are not reality.
Mm-hmm. And that kills more people get a false sense of security from thinking that I sat down in the winter and I did all the math and maybe even did it very thoroughly. Mm-hmm. And they get a false sense of security from that. And I just showed, I just did a speaking gig the other day, and I showed just an example from a budget where all the guy did was add a truck, add a marketing campaign, his insurance went up a little bit, and it totaled up to an $80,000 a year loss. And for $1 million business, that's most of their net profit if they're making a 10% net profit. So it's the outdated thing it's a big deal. It's not if it rains and I have time. It's literally the difference between, is it worth doing all this hard work or not?
And like, I want to give people more credit than sometimes we make it seem when we're like, it's pretty straightforward. You should do it. And we have a preference for building stuff. So that's why we do that instead. It's also because you're juggling 10,000 balls right now. Yes. You're trying to build the job. You're trying to handle the clients. You're trying to handle the clients of the last job that you built that decided that, this tree that I didn't water for the past month, well, that's your fault, not mine. And they won't stop blowing up your phone. You got this guy who quits. You got this guy who's starting. So yeah, it's extremely difficult. Yeah. So I think one of the key things is what I just said, which is making sure that it is part of your calendar. It's the non-negotiable meetings with ourselves that we have to get a better handle on, because those are the things that help you make sure that the ship is still on course. And it's a lot easier when you see like, we're going a little bit off to the side to turn the wheel back than to be about to go 90 degrees to the right and realize like this is way too late. Yeah. It's going to take so much effort to spin that wheel the whole way back around instead of just that little adjustment. So having the whether it's the budget, whether it's sales pipeline review, whether it's reviewing the impact of your marketing, whether it's reviewing your employees, the progress of your team on their objectives for growth, on their whatever bonus structure you have set up. Not having those regular checkpoints, even if you're an owner operator running it yourself, if you're not having those regular checkpoints built out into your calendar, you're going to miss them. And when you miss those checkpoints, you're missing the opportunities to do the small course corrections that keep you on track. And maybe your margin at the end of the year won't be 12, maybe it'll be 11.5. But if you don't check in, it might be 9. And that's a big difference.
Or worse. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point, I really like that you brought that up, because it's 100% true. In this industry is full of contractors that are largely owner operators or are still very involved in the day-to-day. And they are master dumpster firefighters. If you own a business, you know what it's like. Like, there's a never-ending list of things demanding your attention. And so it's not for lack of intentionality or lack of desire.
We all want to do a good job. You got to create the environment that permits you to do a good job.
Exactly. And that's the point that I really want to make about that is if something hurts, do it more. Meaning, if something is hard, do it more until you figure out how to make it easy.
So that budget review thing is definitely something that's an example of that. If you're tracking your expenses by stacking all the receipts at Christmas and just counting it all and then writing it on a piece of paper and saying, okay, it was $187,562 that were my expenses this year. Well, every time you want to see where you stand against that, that's going to be a painful thing. If you build out a spreadsheet with very clear line items, this is insurance, this is marketing investment for paid ads, this is marketing investment for my branding in terms of uniforms and truck wraps and things like that. This is my training budget. This is my sales tools budget. This is and you have it very clearly mapped out. And there's these categories of budget expenses that always occur every year. Well, then it's a lot easier to keep that up to date because, whether it's a quarterly thing or whether it's a monthly thing, or even if you do only twice a year at the start and midway, it's a lot easier to see like, okay, I thought I was going to spend $12,000 on this category, tally up the bills. Oh, we spent 14. It is what it is. You spent the 14. So now that total for the year is not going to be 187,562 anymore. Now it's going to be 189,562 divided by the billable hours that remain for the year. Oh, okay. That means I need to be selling work at this much now. Mm-hmm. And it's not a negotiable thing. The only person you're negotiating with is yourself. Because at the end of the day, your price looks like what? Your price needs to be able to recover all of those expenses, plus be able to pay a profit to the company, plus be able to pay taxes to the government.
Yep.
It needs to do all these things. So if your price cannot successfully accomplish all those things, it's not a good price. And I guess that's what ties into or dovetails into your other point with the mindset thing. Because we all know, and maybe you have an example of someone, but we all know what it feels like to know I should sell for this price, but to be scared going into that meeting saying there's no fucking way that they're going to bite on this price. Yeah. And you start negotiating with yourself before you even get to the kitchen table with them. You're like, but what if they say this? Okay, well then, instead of 42, I could do it for like 39.5. And then before you know it, you don't even realize you're doing it. You spit out the lowest number. It comes out of your mouth as the first one because you're so scared of losing the deal. Yeah. So why don't we talk about that? Give me an example of that maybe you've seen and the real impact that it has.
I see this really a lot. And one thing, probably the way I would label it is they start because of fear or because of a mindset challenge with money or sales process. They start arguing with the math. They start saying 2 + 2 is not 4. Now, of course, they're smart people. It's not that they don't think 2 + 2 is not 4. It's just that they're like, something's got to be wrong. I don't know if I trust the way I did my math. And like, they start arguing with that as a way to justify exactly what you just said. And I see this quite a bit in younger businesses that are encountering this issue for the first time. And one fella in particular built his first budget and tried to sell
Let's give him a name.
His name was Sal.
Okay, I don't know if that's his real name or not. You don't need to clarify. We're talking about Sal. So Sal's running a business. All right.
He started trying to sell these jobs at the rates that his budget was telling him that he needed to sell at.
Yeah.
Guess what happened?
I don't know.
He didn't sell them. They kept getting declined. Guess what his immediate reaction was?
This budget's too expensive?
The budget makes my pricing too expensive.
Okay.
I see this all the time.
So what did Sal do? What was Sal's first reaction?
It was just that, I'm going to go back to the math. The math must be the reason why I'm not selling these jobs.
Okay.
And I can tell you from experience that 90+% of the time, it's not that. It's something else in your sales process, in the negotiating with yourself before you even get out of the truck to present the proposal like you were talking about.
So when Sal did the math, was that the case?
No, it wasn't.
These are the numbers? Like the numbers are the numbers?
Problem. Yeah. The primary problem then downstream, once you figured out your hourly rates are, first, are you vetting your leads or are you running out to see every lead that comes in your door? And often in the early stages of a business that's figuring this out, they're just taking the phone and taking the leads or the web form, taking the leads and processing them the same.
But hang on. I would argue that the first thing is, do you have leads? The first thing, in my opinion, if we're talking about like the sales mindset and what leads to that fear mindset, that scarcity mindset of like, I just need to sell whatever. I don't care how much. I need some cash coming in, is because you don't have enough leads or good leads. If you have enough leads, then you should be qualifying them, which is where you're going. But the first thing is I need to have enough people calling me. I need to have enough people submitting a form. I need to have enough.
You're bringing up a great point, because when you have enough of leads, that helps you kill the scarcity mindset. Like, I got to sell this deal or I don't have any work.
100 people who want to hire me right now, and I can only do 10 jobs a year. Like, okay, now I feel confident. I should sell for the price I want to sell, because if you say no, there's 9 other people that want to say yes.
Exactly. That is actually a really, really good point, that having options, so to speak, meaning like, oh, you don't want it? Oh, no problem. There's another person in line. For my slot on my calendar to do the work, is a key part that I think a lot of contractors overlook, because I hear a lot of people that say, well, we just do word of mouth. And there is nothing wrong with that. It's just that when word of mouth it's not a repeatable system. Like, you can't go spend more money on word of mouth. Like, now if you're doing low job count, high ticket, jobs where you maybe only need to sell 6 jobs a year because they're $500,000 jobs or whatever, that's a little different. You could probably get away with social media style word of mouth on that. But if you're doing the dime a dozen, $20,000 to $60,000, backyard patios, and you need to do, dozens of them a year just to fill your pipeline, you need a marketing machine. Word of mouth is not enough.
Yeah. But I think it's also important to clarify, though, that even if you're only doing those 6 jobs a year or 10 jobs a year, whatever, you still need enough marketing firepower to put you in a position where they're the 6 jobs that you want, not the 6 jobs that you feel obligated to take. Because I'll share something. That's actually pretty indicative of this common problem that we have, this fear part. So we have our Techo Pro program. Okay. There's lots of benefits to being in Techo Pro, including discounts on Synced Up, which is great. But one of the great things about it is you get leads from Techo Block. These are homeowners that come onto our website, and there are thousands and thousands of homeowners that come onto our website, and they click on that little button that says Find a Pro. Then they fill out a little form. That's a lead qualification form. And basically we're saying, like, okay, how much do you have to spend? What do you want to build? Where do you live? When do you want to do this? Okay, do you want us to connect you with a contractor? And then those become leads for the contractors. And one of the biggest things that we saw in terms of the average, because in this process, we collect other information, including how much the projects actually get sold for in the end. And one of the biggest things that was like an aha moment for me, and this was just yesterday, we were looking at it, is the average price of the jobs sold in March, April, and May is less than the average price of a job sold in June, July, August, is less than the average price of a job sold in September, October, November. And what that tells me is at the start of the year, my pipeline is empty and I'm scared shitless. So I'm taking anything that I can. And yes, the phone is ringing, but I got to make sure that my guys have work. So I got the first week of April booked. I got the second week of April booked. I need to book weeks 3 and 4. 45,000. They say 42. Okay, I'll take it. All right, we got the next 2 weeks booked. And then once you start getting like, we're booked until July. Okay, well, no, my price is my price, 45. And then you keep selling jobs. And now you're booked until October and you're taking quotes in September, or you're taking quotes in July. And in July, you're like, man, I'm almost booking into next year. $50,000. And they bite anyway because they want to hire you. So it's a huge, huge clue for me of how important it is to address this fear factor, because the numbers don't lie. It's not like this is 5 jobs. This is millions of dollars of projects that I just saw the trend. Earlier in the year, they sell for less than later in the year. Why? Because later in the year, my pipeline is full. And I'm happy to take them because you know what? This is great. And at the start of the year, I'm desperate. So if you don't want to be desperate, you need to have a good marketing plan that's feeding you enough leads. B, a good sales process to make sure that the right leads turn into the right sales for you. And C, which is one of the most important places where you come in, that I'm pricing those jobs correctly, that I'm recovering all of my expenses and making a profit. And I'm doing the other thing that we haven't talked about yet, which is tracking.
The tracking, yes.
The labor on the project, the material consumed on the project, because my pricing is only as good as the reporting tells me it is at the end. Otherwise, I could be full of it and not even know it.
Yep, that's right. So, the other thing I want to say before we switch to that is the fear thing. Like, your clients can smell that like a shark smells blood and water. So if you have even a tiny bit of like, it's been a minute since I looked at this, but I'm going to go with it. And then they start countering with you. Like that little microsecond of hesitation, dude, you're losing your leverage by not having rock solid confidence on, like, that's the thing that I'm saying is table stakes. Even if you're doing the work of becoming a better salesperson, better sales process, better mindset, better marketing, that takes time and energy, do the thing that's just a shot in the arm that you can solve in a few minutes, and at least remove that thing that is killing your confidence.
That's your point, is dialing in the numbers gives you at least enough confidence on that component. I know the numbers are right. I know this is how much it costs me to run my business. I know this is how much I need to sell this job for. After that, you can figure out how can you get more of the right customers. You can figure out how to get better at selling, how to convince people to believe in you more and have more confidence in you. You can work on all those things. But if you don't know the numbers part, you never have like the full motivation to do it. You're always like, I can make it work. I can make it work. I got other shit to worry about. But when you know, like, I need to be able to recover at least $120 per man per hour per site. And that means that my average project, which is 3 guys on the job for 8 hours a day for 5 days, 3 times 8 is 24 times 5 is what? 120 hours times $120 per hour. That's what is that? $14,400. I need to make sure. Is that right?
I wasn't keeping up with the numbers you were rattling off, but it's
all right. Well, I don't want to get distracted by that, but let's assume that I was right. If I know that I need to make at least 14,400 per week to be able to keep moving forward, well, then that's it. Yep. That's it. Solve for X. X is now solved. Like that's
and
it.
You know what that information gives you? That information gives you the ability to start in your sales pipeline, in your sales process, to start finding like let's just say translate that information into your daily minimum. Like you're not going to go out there and do half-day jobs. A one-day job, a full-day rate. So there you go. There's your $5,000 minimum. Like I don't care if you want me to plant 5 shrubs, like or install 50 square feet of a little pad for an AC unit, whatever. Like.
It has a real minimum. Yeah. I want to take a moment to point out that my mental math skills are dialed in because it's exactly
that. That is awesome.
So, but in that example, like 14,400 a week is not a crazy number. Like that's pretty much what a lot of people are dealing with. So like you're doing a patio, like the minimum just to come out of there and not be upside down, $15,000. You want to actually make some money for your company? It's got to be more than $15,000. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Hardscaper.com. The Hardscaper mission is to empower industry professionals with the skills, inspiration, and confidence they need to take their businesses to new heights. Struggling with training programs for your team? Looking for helpful tips to build a better company? Subscribe today to gain access to hours of interactive, on-demand hardscape construction and business courses for free. Check out Hardscaper.com.
To your point about the let's remove the component of second guessing the math in our hourly rate. Let's at least kill that out of the building confidence picture. There's another one that is much more overlooked, and that's switching over to the second thing that we're talking about. Okay. And that is another component of making sure that 14,400 hypothetical number is actually dialed in. Is the job actually going to take 124 hours, or is it going to take 100, or is it going to take 150? And that's another area. Like, so let's say I've done the math, I've done my hourly rate. I'm not even second guessing it. It's dialed. Now I'm over here bidding a job for Mrs. Jones, and I'm like, I'm kind of waffling. If we had good weather, it could take, I could get it done in 4 days. And I know they're already pushing on budget, so I'm going to bid it for 4 days. and then you submit the proposal, and then they're trying to push it even more on you. And so the point
And
I'm
at this
making
point,
is
you've
that
been
the
going back and forth with
quantity,
them so much that you're like,
yes,
like I might as well just
the
get the
point,
job at this point.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
point that I'm making about that is the quantity of the hours and materials as well, but usually materials is less contractors struggle with that one less because it's just doing math and square footage and lineal footage and weight and all of that. But the hours, the quantity of hours is the thing that many contractors fail to realize how critical that thing is. And what I see happening, I'll just share it as a story. There's a guy in Nebraska that I know that hired a crew lead and tried to work himself out of the field and was doing it, but kept right on estimating the jobs as if he was on site every day. But guess what? His new crew lead took a little bit longer, but he kept on arguing with reality and kept on pricing the jobs.
I know this is 20 hours. I know it's
Yeah,
20 hours to do this thing. I've
exactly.
done it for 20 years. I know it takes 20 hours. It takes you 20 hours.
Exactly.
The new guy takes 26.
And that over a 10-day job, it's a big deal.
Absolutely.
It's a huge deal. And so
it's
what
one
I'm
of the
saying
biggest
is
problems. Actually, it's true you say that, but it's one of the biggest problems. For every contractor that successfully expands to 2 or 3 crews, there are 5 that do it for a year and they pull back right away. That's one of the biggest reasons. Like, I'm not even making any money. Yeah, you're not making any money because you're not pricing them the same.
yeah, and it's not, and at that point, it's no longer a budgeting problem. It's no longer an hourly rate calculation problem. It's just a straight up estimating labor problem.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind, sorry to cut you off, but another thing to keep in mind, because I know I'm guilty of this. I'll say, I know it takes 20 hours. It takes 20 billable hours, but I came back Friday night and I putzed around on it for another hour. And I was there Saturday morning wrapping it up for another 2 hours. So really, it's 23. It's just I sell it for 20 and I only pay myself for 20. So in my head, it's 20. And I've convinced myself of that as 20. That's why the tracking for real tracking is so important. Not just like doing it after 3 weeks and being like, yeah, I was there 5 days. 5 days times that many hours. That's that many hours, period. That's not how you do it.
Dude, that's one of the things that still shocks me to this day when we're onboarding people into Synced Up is how many contractors are estimating their jobs based on what I call on-site time. Like they think, it's going to take 5 days of work or 150 hours of work. Yeah. Sure, you're right, but what about windshield time? What about material logistics? What about cleaning out the trucks at the end of the week when you get back? What about we ran out of something, so we had to run Home Depot? That kind of thing. It blows me away at how many people kind of just never pay attention to it and don't factor it in. And I know one of the things that happened at Tussey Landscaping for us is as we got higher and higher end with our projects, what did that mean? It also meant we were driving further and further to get the market for those deals, right? And so what became really a big factor is like, dude, these logistics, this offsite hours stuff is really important, and it has to be factored in. Because if you don't, sure, you might have. It doesn't matter if the job is 5 minutes from the shop or an hour from the shop. The on-site time probably is going to be relatively the same, unless there's weather and all of that. It's the off-site time,
if it's
the logistics.
4 guys in a truck for an hour each way times 5 days. That's a lot.
That'll
of money
very
to
quickly
burn.
take what you thought was going to be a 5-day job and turn it into a 7-day job very quickly.
Yeah, well, that's true. So what have we? Go.
I was just going to say, and people. So I actually think that this one is a bit of a sleeper. This issue that we're talking about, the counting of the hours per job, is a bit of a sleeper because people think, I bid it for 5 days and it took me 5 days, and they think that that's good enough. And yes, if you're paying attention to it, it's better than not looking at it at all. But it's a bit of a sleeper issue because most people know about and have already put some energy towards the calculating the hourly rate problem, but they tend to kind of like blow off or not take seriously how critical it is to track the hours to the jobs. And it's absolutely critical. And I'll just share I'll share an example. I'll share 2 different examples of why I'll put numbers to it. So first off, if you, let's say that scenario happens where a 5-day job took me 7 days, let's say it happens once a month. Not that big of a stretch for contractors that aren't paying attention to this.
No.
Happens
There's
once a month.
2 extra days out of 20. That's 10%
exactly.
overage.
So then let's say you have a 10-month. Let's say you have a 10-month season, so that's 20 working days a year. Yeah, 20 working days a year sounds like a big deal. Let's put some numbers to that. Okay, so not only did you have to pay for the labor of those 20 working days that nobody paid you for, you had to pay for the overhead of those 20 working days, and you robbed 20 of those days out of your production pipeline for the 10-month season that you have to go do other work that's also billable.
Mm-hmm.
So you pay for that overrun 3 times. And a way that I often like to pose the question to make an example out of this is, if you have a job, would you rather, and you have an overrun, would you rather overrun that job by $750 on materials or labor? On the surface, you're like, it's the same. What's the big difference? The difference is you pay for the labor 3 times. The point I was just making. You pay for it in overhead. You pay for it in the direct wages that nobody's paying you for, and for the opportunity cost of not being able to go off and do the next job.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just to give that, I actually ran some numbers for a presentation I did. And if you run over on materials by $750, sure, you got to pay the $750. No big deal. Or it's not the end of the world usually. If you run over by labor by $750, and I could translate it to hours, but let's just say dollars to make it apples to apples, by $750, that $750 labor overrun in direct cost, in the wages I had to pay the people, is actually, in a hypothetical budget that I built out, a $4,284 cost to my business by the time I factor in the overhead and the lost opportunity and the wages that I had to pay.
Mm-hmm.
So the labor is like, if you're not paying attention to estimated versus actual on anything, pay attention to the labor. Right. And that was the point, is like, just calculate your hours and then count them. Track the hours to the job. And what I see happening for a lot of contractors is they just kind of wing it, shrug it off. I kind of I kind of pay attention to my, it took me 5 days and I estimated it for 5 days, so we're good.
Not good
enough.
Not good enough. So the disciplines that I need to address, again, most things in life are not complicated. They can be difficult to do, but they don't have to be complicated. But one is having the discipline to build out that budget. 2 is setting a budget review and revision scheduled in your calendar on a regular basis. 3 is actually track your hours. Well, first is actually price jobs accordingly. Price jobs based on budget. Real budget, not your made up budget. Then track the hours as accurately as is reasonable, and then adjust as necessary. Mm-hmm. And then once you've done those things, then you can start to work on the other parts of the business. Then you can start working on, do I need more leads? Because I'm trying to sell these jobs at $120 per man per hour, and it's really hard. And people don't want to pay that. That means it's not the right people. You're not talking to the right people. So you need to be able to address that, whether that be up front with the leads you're generating or with the leads that you're accepting to meet with, because that could be the other point that you were trying to make. Once you've done that, now you know you're in front of the right people. You're looking at the house, like, they have the means. They're not biting. Why are they not biting? What about you or your presentation or your pitch or your design or your material suggestions or your timeline or your whatever it is? You have to look at yourself and say, what are the things that are making people not buy from me? If they're saying I'm too expensive, it's not because I'm actually too expensive. It's because they don't like something enough to trust me enough to give me that amount of money. And that's something that needs to be addressed. But if you've dialed in the numbers, then you know what you need to fix. If you haven't dialed in the numbers, you don't know what you need to fix. And that's the biggest mistake. It's not the leaving profit on the table. The leaving profit on the table is a byproduct of not knowing the numbers and not knowing what's broken.
Mm-hmm. And I cannot overemphasize the need to track the hours to the job. Like, I think that's the one that the contractors tend to
gloss
just
over
or blow off, or even say it as it's not that important. But one way I'll make a point about this is, why is square foot pricing so common in our industry? Well, I'll tell you why. It's fast and it's easy. Mm-hmm. That's why. So let's make estimating jobs correctly fast and easy. And one of the ways you can do that is with production rates. Well, okay, so let's say you sign yourself up and you want production rates. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, the only way you're going to get production rates is if you're tracking the hours. And it's not that hard. I really like the point that you made about most things in life are not hard to do. They're just, or it's not like you don't
They're
know
not
how to do them. It's just
yeah.
that they're hard to do. Yeah. Like, if I need to lose weight, all I need to do is move more and eat less.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I need to do. That's not the hard part.
It's hard.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
Do. Yeah.
It's the discipline of doing it. That is the hard part.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of the point why I came into this podcast with wanting to make those 2 points is just remove the second guessing about your hourly rate by just doing the math and doing it regularly so that you don't have that thing robbing your confidence. Then second, stop blowing off the tracking the hours. If you track the hours, you have the data to solve the problem, whatever problem may exist. Mm-hmm. Do the tracking and you will solve 80% of the profitability problem of contracting. Because with those hours, you can sanity check and make sure that you're estimating your jobs correctly. You can use that data to build production rates. You can see trend differences like, oh, wow, that crew, interesting. Or when I did this and I got a crew lead, that impacted my efficiency by 20%. Or, hey, I'll tell you a story of what we did at Tessie Landscaping. When we started, we essentially just realized we were wasting a lot of time off site. And we worked with our vendors to just ask them to come, do crazy stuff, like deliver a pipe fitting to our job 45 minutes away. It sounds ridiculous, but guess what? That was far more efficient than us sending a person to go get that pipe fitting that somebody forgot.
We were on our showcase project this year, and you came out to one of them or a couple of them for a couple of days. And you can see how, like, because we're shooting things need to look just perfect on video all the time. So sometimes, like, the thing we wanted to use, well, it got a little dinged up or it's a little dirty or someone dropped it and it broke. We can fix it, but I can't use a fixed pipe fitting on camera. I need a new one. So we always had one of our reps around to just run around and go get that stuff. Now, for the cost of the project, for the contractor, it changes nothing because it's one of our reps. But if that was one of my people that was a billable hour on the project that was running around to wherever, Ace Hardware, to get a 4-inch schedule 40 pipe fitting so I can do this 45-degree angle so I can plumb the downspouts and get on with my life. Well, that's a very expensive pipe fitting. So yeah, I agree 100%. The benefit of getting things delivered to you and making sure that you take the time to talk with your dealers for all your different materials. Talk with them and figure out cost-effective logistical solutions for your business. Exactly. Sit down with them and talk about what are the things, what are the conditions that both parties need to meet in order for the best deal possible. Stop worrying about how much you pay per square foot. Start worrying about how fast and how reliably you can get stuff to me. Because if you can achieve those 2 things, then I do not burn those man hours waiting for a delivery that was supposed to come at 7, and then at 9, and then at 10, and then at 11:30. So I have 4.5 man hours on site of figuring out what other stuff we could be doing right now so that we're not wasting time, but it's not optimized. And that's bleeding profit as well. So there's all kinds of things that once you've dialed in those numbers and you've started studying them, it's easy to find the motivation to push a lot harder on it because, like, wow, that's $2,000. Wow, that's $700. Wow, that's $600. And you start seeing the direct impact in the bank account on a weekly basis. And if that's not fuel enough for you to take that discipline more seriously and start blocking off that time in your calendar every month or every quarter to do this kind of stuff, I don't know what is. Because at the end of the day, that's the difference between winning and losing in business. Is having your eyes on that stuff and making the little tweaks that are necessary so that you keep moving forward and keep building and growing and getting better. And when you do those things, for those of you listening that are not a business owner, it's not about putting more money in the bank account of the business owner. By making the company healthier, the company presents more opportunities to you. You can grow your career. You can get a raise. You can get a new position. The company might be able to acquire one of your local competitors, and all of a sudden there's a whole new other thing to manage. You could be adding crews. There's all kinds of great things that come from helping a company grow its bottom line, and everyone can contribute to that. Everyone clocking in helps track those hours, right? If it's all on the boss to do it, well, it's hard to do.
Yeah. And in our store at Tuscan Landscaping, to kind of dovetail into the point you're making, I was already saying how as we grew and got our higher end jobs, we also started traveling further. And because we were tracking, we were like, oh, wow. And what came out of that was, guess what? Even the crew members had some of the best ideas on how to improve our efficiency.
As is usually
And
the case, because they're the ones doing the work.
yeah. And the mindset that the whole company kind of adopted was like, what do we need to do to keep the guys on site? All you need to do is come in, turn the key on your truck, get out there to the site. That's it.
Go build.
We don't want you doing anything else. And out of that is going back to the vendor. One of the practical ideas is, of course, when you're doing deliveries, there's another bucket of problems to manage. Like, oh, you had it scheduled for 10 a.m. They didn't show up till 2. Well, that can really kill it. So one of the things that we started doing, because this came from the crew's ideas, not the owners, was, hey, why don't we just have our vendor, our supplier, just bring stuff directly down to our shop. Like they'll deliver to our shop for the next day. And so what we kind of got into the habit of doing is every afternoon, 2-3 p.m., the foreman would think about the next day, decide what they need, put the order in. It's there at the shop when they get back. They load on the truck and they're back out on the site the next day. When I look back at our story at Tyson Landscaping, that little seemingly insignificant little optimization was one of the biggest difference makers for keeping guys on site working productively.
Because there's always something that happens tomorrow morning too. Whether it's the vendor that's delayed or you say, well, I'll just pick it up on the way. There's always something that gets in the way of that. So I love that idea. If you have a yard, you have a shop, you can take some things the night before, even if it's a partial delivery, like whatever, it's enough to get me to noon. And then by noon, the rest comes. Cool.
Yeah.
That's your insurance policy. What's it cost you? An extra $120, extra $180 delivery fee? Who cares? Put in the budget. Customer pays for it. Like it's but you are on schedule. And when you're on schedule, it's your
client's job to pay those bills.
The money.
See, this is the other thing. It's your client's job to pay those bills. Don't view it as like I'm spending the money that I should have kept. No, you make the decisions on how you want to run your business to be efficient, optimize the way you want, and price your jobs accordingly. It's that
part
simple.
of your promise to the customer. I will build this job for you in 7 days, Mrs. Smith. Well, part of the 7 days is our delivery, our whole logistical solution that we implement, and that has a cost. That's part of what you're getting with me. You're not explaining this to the client, but you have to get that in your head. Like this is part of the value chain or value proposition I bring to you as a contractor. Not only will I have an awesome design and build you a fantastic backyard and will be built to meet or exceed every industry standard, but it will be on schedule, it will be on budget, and it will be as promised. How do I do that? Don't you worry about that. But all this stuff back here, all these gears and machinations that are working, well, there's a price for that. I'm the face of it, and you're trusting me, and I will not let you down, and that's $43,562.
I love it.
But that's you have to get to that level of confidence, and it starts with what we've been talking about this entire time, which is understanding those numbers. So Wes,
that's exactly right.
You're going to be on the road with us, or you and your team are going to be on the road with us with Hardscaper Showcase coming up. The theme this year's opportunities are everywhere, and we just identified some of the major opportunities within everyone's business to grow their profits and cut out waste and optimize and really position themselves for a strong 2026. You're going to be there. What are some of the things that people can get out of their meeting with you at the show? We have 25 events coming up this winter all over the United States and Canada. They're free events for contractors to attend. And one of the things is they can meet guys like you who will be there. So what can I ask you while I'm there? What can we handle right there on the spot? And what, why don't we do that? What can you handle for me right on the spot? What answers?
One of the things I'm really excited about is I love the quote, fall in love with your problem, not your solution, because that means you're constantly reiterating, re-innovating on how you solve that same problem. And this budgeting thing is no exception. So, when we started Synced Up, we were basically doing the budgets and spreadsheets. Then ultimately we had it in an actual part of the software. And now we've re-innovated on it yet again. And what we found is we were helping thousands of contractors build their budgets. And what we discovered is we were asking people questions that they didn't know the answer to when building the budget. And so it would turn into all kinds of like, well, let me go check with my accountant. I'm not sure, blah, blah, blah.
So you're
And
half
so it
building
would
the
end up,
budget, and then the other half you come back or you're
yeah,
guessing, which is
exactly.
obviously not what you want to do.
And so over the years, what we've curated is essentially a series of questions that we can ask that you're going to know off the top of your head the answers to. And then you just answer those questions and you come out the other side with a budget that's within a few percentage points of dead on accurate. And what we have essentially just launched as of last week, and we're also going to be sharing this at the showcase season, is you can have this tool where you can just like go in, answer these questions, come out the other side with your hourly rate and your production, your business's production and break even and daily minimums, broken out for you right there.
So basically, I go to hardscaper.com, I sign up for the free events, I come to the free events, I meet you, you're going to show me this thing. Send me a link or whatever. It's going to be very straightforward. I answer the questions, and that gets me well on my way, if not entirely on my way, to having a budget that's representative of reality. And then from there, everything else we talked about, I'm more equipped to do it. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh, yeah. All you need to do is come out and scan your badge at our booth, and we'll send you this tool.
That's pretty
simple.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Other stuff that we're going to talk about the shows. Obviously, we're going to talk about design trends and how to integrate those into your design so that you're more attractive to the customer, so they want to pay you to build that job. We're also going to show a lot of different construction techniques that will help to discipline the labor side and cut out a lot of the wasted minutes and hours that happen on a job site, especially when we're multiple people working on the same crew. And then finally, we're going to be tackling that sales challenge as well and making sure that I can find the right leads. I can flip those leads into sales. I can sell confidently and for the right price. And the customers will be happy to pay me because they believe in the promise and I believe in the promise, and we can get this done. And I think like that's one of the biggest things, having worked on Showcase for 20 years now. All 20 years, really, I've been involved with the shows, and it really is something that we do. And you know us because you've been involved with the shows for many years as well now. But it's one of the things that we're extremely passionate about because it's hitting everything that is actually a pain point for the contractors and providing real solutions that are not pie in the sky. Maybe if you take 5 years to work on this, you might be able to implement it. This is all stuff that immediately you get in the truck, you can put it to work for you right away and have an impact. And I'm extremely proud to be coming back with these shows again this year for our 20th season, and to have partners like you, Wes, who just help make it that much better for contractors every day of the week thereafter. So if people want to learn more about that tool that you have, like obviously they can learn about it at the shows, but if they want to learn about the different sessions that you have, the different consultations that you have, and obviously the software, what's the best way for them to learn about that stuff right now?
You can just go to synkedup.com. It's spelled with a K, synkedup.com. And you can get the free resources right there on the website underneath the free tools tab. And you can also get a demo to actually see the actual software and implement it into your business. We're focusing on making it easier and easier to get started and easier to onboard and implement, because contractors don't want to sign themselves up for weeks of busy office work. Like that's nobody's dream. And so
I don't think any person wants to do that. It's not just contractors. It's just a human being.
Like going
thing.
to the dentist.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can just go to the website, or you can DM us on Instagram. It's the same thing, at Synced Up, and we'll take our conversation up there. But yeah, the thing I'm still just reflecting on the thing that you mentioned about it's not knowing what to do, it's actually just doing it. And just some motivation I want to drop here for people listening to this is, if you are seemingly focused on losing jobs because of price, just some examples I'll give you that move the needle for contractors is just focus on getting that quote back to the customer ASAP before you even leave the driveway on little $20,000 patios. Now if you're doing big 6-figure stuff, sure, you need a design process, but the little stuff, you should be able to produce that quote before you even leave the driveway, not with square foot pricing either, without square foot pricing, actual properly priced jobs. And there's some studies done on proposals, and being the first quote back is one of the top indicators of who's going to win that job. And so much of the time I see contractors overanalyzing on, oh, it's the price or it's this or that, but then they're not it's taking them days, if not weeks, to get a price back to a customer. They're not answering the phone because they're busy. They're out there doing the work. So find a way to get the phone answered all the time. It's just the simple little things that you think like, those things, to your point about the professionalism and the value add and the systems and the process that enable you to do that job professionally within 7 days. And then it actually does take 7 days. Like those things, can't stress them enough. Like they are extremely important, and they're accessible to everybody. You don't have to be a mature big business to be able to do them.
No, you could be starting tomorrow morning and be able to do that stuff. It's the abundance of tools that are available today is incredible.
Yeah.
And I'll end on this because you just made me think of it with what you just said with the quoting quickly is, the looking professional, getting the response back to a client quickly is a huge indicator of that in the eyes of a consumer. You put put the shoes on the other foot and be them for a minute. Clients are pickier than ever. And they're holding on to their money with this like crazy death grip. And if you want to be able to work together with them and deliver the value that that you can, you need to be coming off as professional as possible. And what a fun challenge that is, because you're not on your own to figure it out. There's so much information out there, so many tools out there, so many events and different pieces of content that are out there, and courses like on hardscaper.com that are out there to equip you with that stuff. It's just really having the discipline to do it. And it's entirely achievable. And we see it every year with the tens of thousands of contractors that grow their businesses in spite of what the market is, in spite of what the economy is, in spite of everything that the world throws at them. And it's because they have a plan that is rooted in facts and data, and they work the plan. And when the plan doesn't work, they know how to pivot because they have all the information at their fingertips. And that's one of the big things that Synced Up helps you to do. So Wes, why don't we sign off on that? I think we did the turn of everything we wanted to cover here today. I want to thank you for joining us on the show again. And the website, once again, syncedup.com, on Instagram at syncedup. And if you have not yet signed up for Hardscaper Showcase, you can do that at events.hardscaper.com. And until next time, everyone, work hard, pave harder, and we'll see you next time on the Hardscape Growth Show.
You've been listening to Hardscape Growth, a podcast for hungry professionals who want to grow their businesses and level up. Each episode is all about taking the next step in running your business, so make sure you never miss a show by subscribing on your favorite podcast player. And if you're finding this information to be useful, help others in your position discover us by giving us a star rating and leaving a comment. We'll see you next week.